Welcome to the Light & Co podcast. This is episode 6 and I'm Dee and I'll be your host for the next little while. So today we're talking about the hottest topic in town at the moment, apparently, is menopause. So the topic of this talk is why didn't anybody warn me about menopause rage? Oh, there's a lot to unpack in that one. Okay, so let me just first address where we are at the moment in terms of this whole topic and the overwhelm and the noise that is coming at us now. That's just building and building, and so many opinions and so many offers of assistance and so many things that we have to adopt to get our way through this really challenging time. And if you actually are in perimenopause or you're not quite there yet, you will be fearful. You'll be going, oh my God, I just so don't want to go through that. It's awful. I'm here as a woman who went through menopause 18 years ago, who's well and truly on the other side, to tell you that there's a different way through. I'm going to be the quiet voice of reason in your pocket that says things you won't hear anywhere else. So as I turned 70 this year, I didn't hang up my libido. I still fit into my clothes. I still have a glass of red wine at night. I don't have to do Sudoku to keep my brain functioning. I don't have brain fog. I sleep okay. I have a very healthy relationship. I'm fit and I'm vital, and I have a sense of purpose. I didn't have to sacrifice anything. I gained me. So that's the invitation. Let's unpack all of that so we keep it simple, so that it's coherent for you, so that it just makes sense. I'd really like at the end of this podcast for you to just breathe a sigh of relief and go, wow, this is a transition in my life that I can handle that's actually going to be way better than I imagined or what I've been told. Maybe ignorance is bliss. I don't know, because when I went through menopause, there was nothing. There was zip, there was nada, there was just nothing, because we didn't have social media back then. But in retrospect now I see that I had prepared for it for years. And so this is the big takeout of this, if you will, this whole talk. What we suppress expresses itself. So everywhere where we have suppressed our anger, our resentment, our good girl, and we don't suppress her, we just express her, that nice good girl, our grief, our shame, our guilt, our distaste, our disappointment, our failures, all of that. Everywhere where we shove that under the carpet, we carry it with us. And it builds and it builds and it builds and it creates pressure. And that pressure equals heat. And that heat has nowhere to go. So it's like the thermostat gets broken. So it just expresses itself and down again, expresses itself and down again. So the clean, clear way through that is to find the release valve, to activate that release valve once and for all. Now, this takes courage, because I remember once a woman who was slightly older than me, and I remember saying to her, hey, we could do some work on this. And she just looked at me and she said, it would kill me to address this. It would kill me to go there. Wow. Eventually it did. So that which we suppress, that which we hold on to energetically, must manifest as disease in the body. And we just call that whatever we will, whether it's breast cancer or whether it's a heart attack, dementia, all sorts of things. Because we actually clogged up the whole system that actually is designed to flow cleanly and clearly when we have the courage to actually face everything that's there. Okay, so let's pull it back a little bit. Because at the moment, it's all about hormones, it's all about intermittent fasting, it's all about self-care and self-nourishment and time for you, etc., etc. That's great on the surface, but it's not going to clean out the pipes. It's not going to clear the way for the rest of your life, for your new life, for that fullest expression of you. So I can speak from this place with great lived experience, because there is no escaping. We all have to go through this transition. You can't biohack your way through it. You can't resist it. You can't avoid it. You can't hang on to your youth. This is a transition of life, and the rewards are great if you actually surrender to the whole transition process. Remember, that which we resist persists. Okay? That which we suppress must express itself in some way. So I've been doing energetic work for over 40 years. And I realize that I started early. I started really early, back in the late 70s, the 80s. And in retrospect, it was like, wow, I intuitively knew what you were doing for this time, or for when you went through that transition. But I just knew, even back then, that I had to examine everything and be true to myself. That caused the breakup of my first marriage. It caused a lot of dissension between myself and my family. But I was that one that went, no, I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to look at this. I'm not going to go with the rest of the pack. And by doing that, by doing a lot of emotional release work, I was able to travel lightly through life. And I'm very grateful for myself that I did that at the time, because when I came to that transition in my early 50s, there was one pivotal moment, which I'll talk about in a moment, but that I'd readied the way and paved the way. So for that, I was grateful, because I actually physically went through menopause with virtually no symptoms. I didn't experience the hot flushes. My sleep was up and down a little bit. I don't remember any brain fog. I don't really remember lack of libido. Yes, I was tired with teenage children, that sort of thing, but... And before you actually leave, you might just go, oh, that's it, I don't want to talk to this woman. I don't want to know. Okay. Because this is the part of the topic that isn't discussed. You're only hearing about what women go through, and you see that that's inevitable. You don't hear anybody else's story. You don't actually hear, well, could I go through this a lot easier if I just prepared the way? And the answer is yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the key to it is to address everywhere where you have stuffed down who you truly are. So I was raised a good girl. I was raised middle-class family in Melbourne, private school girl, high achiever, highly responsible. But the rumble for me started very early. And in retrospect, it started early for me so that I could be this level of coherence and sound voice of reason in your pocket at my age to help guide you through this transition time with a level of clarity and strength and humour that I didn't have. So I'm one of those pioneers, okay? One of those pioneers who spent the last 40 years exploring this stuff. And I'm still here, and I've got a long way to go. So what I'm here to say is that this stuff works. Addressing energetically everywhere where you've stuffed it down. Because society teaches us now, okay, that we are capable women, that our thighs must be sleek, that our bellies must be, at least tautish, that our arms, that our biceps can be big, 50 and 60, you know. That we are sexual goddesses, okay? There's nothing we can't do. We're wise women, we're competent, all of that. Wow. The pressure to maintain that is suffocating. The pressure to maintain your looks for the fear of aging is suffocating. And that is the thing that will age you more than anything else, is actually being worried about aging. Yeah, who knew? So this is a time of your life that is the greatest transition. It's the greatest turning point. It's the greatest doorway in your life. Because you can't have children anymore, or that's all slowing down. But what you can birth is a new way of life. Because we older women that come through this well, we are the stewards, birthing. We are the grandmothers, birthing in our particular pocket of wisdom this new way of life on earth. One that is vital, one that is intelligent, one that is compassionate, one that is humorous, one that is non-competitive, one that is contributing to life itself. One that is not fearful. But we don't compete with other women. That little chestnut, that's a whole other topic. We might go into that podcast one day. Oh, the wounded sisterhood. So when we actually like the company we keep, when we actually celebrate this body for all that it's done, for all of its lusciousness, for all of its softness, for all of its curves, for all of its capacity, when we come to that place, when we've moved through menopause It is the most liberating place that you will reach in your life, because that gorgeous, I don't know, 16-year-old, 27-year-old, whoever she is, she's still in there somewhere. The essence of her still lives inside you. On an outward measure, yes, the hair's a little bit grey and there are more wrinkles. Who cares? You will not be remembered for your smooth brow or your lack of labial lines, for the size of your stomach, whether you can squeeze into jeans or not, for the colour of your hair. You won't be remembered for any of those things in the final stages of your life. You will be remembered for how you made others feel in your company. Were they accepted? Were they loved? Were they challenged? But just were they fully accepted within your company? Did you embrace life? Did you give back to life? Did you seek simplicity in the quiet moments? Nobody cares how big your thighs are or how many wrinkles you have. So that is just that. Let's park that front and centre. Because if we didn't have to worry about any of that, because that again is what ages us, if we actually just were able to embrace this whole process, then what is released is our light. And it's the light in somebody's eyes that you will see and feel, because you feel their spirit inside themselves. It is not trapped in a body that's full of judgment, that's full of medical sort of suppressants. Life itself flows through it. That's what we're looking at. So to go there, again, we've got to travel light. So in my case, I remember being early 50s. And every stage of my life, whether it was single or there was first marriage and then there was children, and so I'd reached this stage of my life, again, every stage had to be a transition. And at this point, another woman had turned up and she decided that she wanted my life. So I'll let you join in the dots, right? You can join the dots on that one. Me being me, so accommodating, so we'll work through this, so in my largesse. Until somebody said to me, just as a matter of, offhand, gee, when are you going to get angry? Now, I had never been angry. I had been sad, I had had grief, I had been ostracised, I had been betrayed. There's so many things. I had been knocked back, I had been stopped. It's like I had been put down, you name it. I had had that, okay? But I'd never been angry because I was such a good girl, such a nice human, particularly when you've done a lot of energetic work and you're working in this whole area of compassion and love and light. It's like, oh yes, I'm such a nice person. So the anger, it rose from my toes. It was like volcanic lava. I felt it because obviously it was hot. So it started to move up and move up and move up. And then it just released like one of those fire hoses. And anybody who was in its way copped that. But it was clean, clear, potent anger that had a purpose, that had a right to be there. So it was righteous anger. And it just rose up and expressed itself to the point where it was like, I guess it's like having a plumber come in and sort of, is called a gurney, whatever it is, that goes through all the pipes and cleans them all out. That's how I felt. I felt like I'd cleansed myself. And then I sat with it. I sat with it. I used to have a habit of sitting in the walk-in robe. I sat probably between two coats or a couple of dresses. And I realised the person I was angry at was me. I was angry at myself for playing it small. Wow. Because somewhere I had just capped my capacity for fear of upsetting others, for fear of who I would be if I released it all and stood there in my full capacity and power, my full light. So that happened 18 years ago. And it's put me on a trajectory, because if you've listened to, I think, episode 5, it was around how the remarkable pendulums came in, the pearl pendulums. I began the company and the whole process of that just after this had happened. I would never have had the vision. I would not have had the strength to stand in my power to deliver this. I would not have had the capacity to experience the knockbacks that I got if I didn't have that grounded self-belief in something larger. Because as we move through this time, for some of us, we will be birthing something new. So our creativity doesn't stop. It actually goes into something larger. So by cleaning out that whole womb area, that whole creative belly, so that it was clean and clear, I could birth this new vision. I would never have been able to do it if I hadn't gone through that situation. So yes, I'm grateful to all of those who played their part for me to grow my wings. So that's your opportunity to come through this. Because with that comes better health. And your libido is strong, because your libido is not only about sex. Your libido is about your ebullience, that wonderful word. It's like that love of life, that capacity to embrace it all, to take it head on, but also to receive, to surrender to that which is larger, to embrace this remarkable body. I remember years and years ago when I was 27, 28, and a wonderful man said to me, "You will age like a Grange hermitage." Now, for those of you who live overseas or are not wine drinkers, a Grange hermitage is a very substantial red, very top shelf, very expensive, has a reputation, but is mysterious and complex and mature. Very wonderful on the palate, quite unique. I'm sure every vintage would be utterly unique. And I remember those words because they stayed with my psyche all the time. So I've made that my mantra as I've aged, that I'll age like a Grange Hermitage. That sense of refinement, that sense of presence. And I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anybody else because I don't care what you think of me. How liberating is that? So let's come back to how do we get there, okay? Because you might be listening to this in perimenopause or even just beginning menopause and the heat is rising, your relationship's stuffed. Your children are on their phones, you just have no idea what's happening. Your aged mother is just driving you up the wall. Your boss or your business is just getting out of hand and you don't know where to start. So first of all, we have to look at where is the end of that Gordian knot? Where do we go to release some of that pressure? Where do we go to bring it back to its center? Where do we go to take it, to elevate it to a place where you're not at the effect of all the noise out there? And that you have the capacity and the strength to choose your life for you moving forward. How does that look? Because when you choose you, that part of you that's been stuffed down and not listened to and just subjected to all of this, when you get in touch with that part, it's quiet up there. And that's the part that is exquisite for others to experience. There's nothing like being in a room with somebody who's fully coherent, somebody who's fully in their body and happy in that place, somebody who's tapped into a level of wisdom and acceptance and humour. There's nothing like being in their presence. So maybe you could consider that as a place that you might want to be in a few years' time, to be in that place of presence with you first. And yes, the whirlwind of life will still continue, but once that place is established, the rest happens more easily. Okay. I remember a particular woman that I was working with, and she was an extremely capable, high-flying corporate executive. And she was in her middle 50s. She was still going through menopause. The stress levels were huge. Her her marriage wasn't working. She had a lot of money and resources at her fingertips, but she wasn't happy. Her children weren't speaking to her. Her mother had dementia. Her father had passed away. So she could go and buy lots of things, okay? She could take herself on holidays. She could do the self-care. She could have a massage. She could do all of those sorts of things. But everywhere that she denied herself was front and center. So we worked together for a few months. And I'm very direct when I'm working, because I'm working with charts and I'm working with measurements, and I can see the depth of that pain over there. I can see the depth of the charge in that field. There's no escaping it. And we can cover it up and we can sugarcoat it and we can go, oh, no, I'm fine. But no, the instruments don't lie. So it's like, okay, let's go in and clear that. Now, the consequences of clearing that means that relationship over there might end, or it might take on a new trajectory. We don't know. But when you reach a point of no return, to have somebody walk alongside of you to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage is a comfort. I didn't have it. I'm one of those pioneers that began 4 decades ago. We had no roadmap back then. We did all sorts of courses and energetic things, but we were the pioneers. So at my age, at 70, I'm here to tell you that this stuff works. You don't have to fly on your own. Meet somebody for which this has worked. But it's about having the clarity, the courage to look at your whole life and see where it is that you've passed yourself by. What have you stuffed under your carpet or at the back of your cupboard? Okay. So we did that with this lady. And long story short, we got to the point where she rang me one day and she said, I'm done. I said, okay. And I remember that because the tears flowed for me and the tears flowed for her, because I could feel that release, because I could feel her soul talking and saying, thank God, thank God, we're here. She's done it. I'm free. I don't have to carry all the expectations of generations upon my shoulder to be thus. I can now release myself into my next life and fly free. And she did. Her marriage was done. It could not sustain this new level of expression that she had actually initiated. And so she moved overseas. She obviously left her job and she moved overseas, and she's now running a B&B in France. And she may listen to this, and I bow to you. And I think she has a French lover. So it was a wonderful expression of somebody who took their life, the bull by the horns, and said, you know what, I'm going to clean up this. And whatever it takes, I'm going to find me again. And I'm going to express that me, that part of myself, back into the whole, okay, whereby I can contribute my gifts, my talents, my expression. I know in her case some artwork, but just her hospitality and her love of life for the highest good of all. What a gift. What a gift. And if she hadn't done that, I don't know, she was probably heading for some level of cancer or physical breakdown or something whereby the ending wasn't going to be so good. I remember working with another, and this is a woman. She came to me because she hated her body. She hated the way her body was now showing up. She was angry with her body. She wanted her body to, you know, if she worked it harder, if she was always berating it. And it created so much angst and frustration in her life, and push and spending money to try and maintain her body at a certain level. Now, she was late 40s, coming into her 50s, and she was afraid that if she didn't maintain everything, who would she be? Because the maintenance to look after this takes up time, takes up energy, takes up money. And what if it wasn't about that? What if it was about an embracing of this process, an embracing of every curve, an embracing of every wrinkle, an embracing of every potential grey hair? Not because, oh, it's body positivity. No, because in the embracing of that, in the surrendering of that, your light is revealed. Now, to get there, that's pretty hard. You're going to have to really swim against the tide. The languid pleasure in just being you and at home in your body is priceless. When we give up the fight, something else is revealed, something larger than ourselves, something you didn't know was there. Your larger self has a place to land. Your light has a place to land. Your relationship with food changes. Food becomes pleasure, not guilt. Food becomes nourishment and sustenance. Life is simplified. Guilt flies out the window. It's just not on your radar whatsoever. And this is the time we're in. Because when we can reach this place and we can hold our light, we become a lighthouse, a beacon for others, ready to do the same. Your life is not over when you reach this time. Your new life is just beginning. So that's the invitation to work with me. You can head to lightandco.earth, or you can email me, d@lightandco.earth, or you can just message me on my Instagram at Dee Light and Co. All the information's down underneath this. And we just talk first. There are many vectors via which we can come into this. There's many starting points. But the aim is to get you to that point of release so that you're happy to sit with the company you keep in quiet moments. That you're just happy to be you. And from that flows everything else. Your relationship will change. Your health will improve dramatically. So the interesting thing about health is that when we clear up the fundamental energetics, because they're sitting there in your energetic field, when they're all cleared up, then the physical expression of those, i.e. in your body, changes. That's how it works. That's not rocket science. If you had less stress, if you had less pressure, if you had less heat, if you had a clean, clear run, imagine what you might experience then. Where all your focus and all your energy was in going in creating a life for yourself and perhaps for others if you want to contribute. That raises the whole. That's the time we're in. That's the clarion call for this time. So there you are. That's my invitation. If you're curious, there's definitely a way through. There's a book. This was the one that I wrote just after I went through that experience back in my early 50s. This is the one that came through 3 days in a hotel room. It's a very, very potent, luscious book. Because what if anger was the doorway to your true potency? What if? So there you go. Sit with that for a little while. And maybe I'll hear from you. Maybe your curiosity, maybe your heat will rise to a point where you go, I've just got to contact that woman. Yeah. I'll be here. Okay. And if you know somebody else that this talk, this podcast could benefit, send it to them. We women need to work together a lot more closely now. We have a job to do. Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.